Welcome to the VBAC Homebirth Stories podcast, where we celebrate and share powerful VBAC homebirth stories to inspire and support mamas just like you. I'm your host, Ashley Winning, a VBAC homebirth advocate and mama of 3, and I believe every woman deserves to birth with confidence and trust in her body. In each episode, you'll hear real-life stories, expert insight, and encouragement to help you feel informed and empowered on your VBAC homebirth journey. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to another podcast episode. I'm your host, Ashley, and today we have Mel with us. Mel, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. This is so exciting.
Let us know a little bit about you.
Okay, so I'm Mel. I am now a mum of 3, which I don't know how many times I've actually said that out loud. So I've got 2 boys and I've just had a baby girl. Before I was pregnant with our girl, we were a traveling family. So we were living in our caravan, traveling Australia, and we've been doing that for 3 years. And homeschooling. And before we took off traveling, I was a doula and a hypnobirthing practitioner.
Yeah, awesome.
A little about me.
That's good. So when you say homeschooler, are you guys doing the distance ed or are you doing unschooling?
No, unschooling.
Unschooling.
Yeah.
And how was the traveling going for the 3 years?
Amazing. It's actually, since we've pulled up, it's actually easier to homeschool or unschool while you are traveling because you're just seeing new places. Like I taught the boys about, the Great Australian Bight as we were standing on the Great Australian Bight, and I had to learn about it in a book. So, yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Really cool.
I love it. I love it so much. I really would love to do that sometime. And I don't want to take up this podcast episode with this, but I imagine other people are interested in that. So is there anything you can share this as a quick little bite for us to look into that, or any tips or tricks you've got, or anything you'd like to say to anyone thinking about it?
Just do it. Look, I've met people that have worked on the road, and there's so many different ways that you can work and travel and move, do it slower. We did upgrade our setup after we decided we were going to keep going, but I've seen people travel in just a rooftop tent with kids. It really, kids don't need a lot. They need to be with their family and, going to cool places and seeing cool things. Just don't let your setup or, money, I guess. Obviously we need money, but there's ways that you can come into money while you're traveling. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, I'm watching this guy at the moment talk about him moving to Bali. And how he's so happy and blah, blah, blah. And it just keeps coming up on my YouTube, and I've been watching people caravanning and stuff.
Well, that was interesting. We went and did 7 weeks in Bali when we thought, we got to Perth and it was Christmas time and we never really booked anything. And so we were like, let's just jet across to Bali for Christmas time. And we spent 7 weeks there because we thought, hey, maybe when we're done in the caravan, we'll come and do the Bali thing. And in that 7 weeks, it was really interesting because it showed us that wasn't for us. There was a lot of things that happened. One of my boys got bitten by a dog, one fell off a hammock and split his head open. And I was like, okay, this is not, it wasn't great for our family. And getting out to parks and going to the beach or going in on a bushwalk, it wasn't as available and accessible in Bali as it is here. So for families, we really feel Bali wasn't it for us.
Yeah, it's good that you got to do that and give it a try though, because I guess
that's another thing to say, give it a go. Give anything a go, and if it doesn't work, you just go back to what you were doing.
So true, because I saw this other family, they travelled for a couple of years, then they went to Bali for however long. I think it was like 12 months. And then they moved to Dubai and
Yeah.
then they moved to America. And I was just like, what? Like,
Yeah.
this is outrageous. Like, how
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I suppose when you like do those things, the sky's the limit. You're like thinking outside the box, and
Yeah.
who knows where the
Exactly.
trail will take you. So I
Yeah.
know a family who basically tried it, and they, it lasted like 6 months, and they said it's not for us. So they went back
Yeah.
home, and it's like that could happen too. But like that's life, isn't it? And I
Yeah.
suppose the same with birth. Like just give it a go. Like
Yeah.
give everything a go.
That's, yeah, which I'll get into, like
Yeah,
making a plan and being open to, like, this is the plan. Ideally, this is what I would like to unfold. But until you're in it and, if certain things change, that's going to like lead your decision making, I guess.
yeah, 100%. So let's start from the start for you. So
Okay.
when you first became a mum, when was that? When you first fell pregnant?
What year was it? It was 10 years ago.
10 years
He's
ago.
10, so
Beautiful.
it was
2016.
2016.
Yep.
Well, I fell pregnant at the end, like 2015, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Fell pregnant. Yeah, like I was 27, um, pretty fit, healthy. Um, yeah, like that pregnancy was sort of just, I guess, uncomplicated. I didn't really know a lot. I actually was reflecting this morning. I probably didn't even know what physiological birth meant, what it looked like how. I probably was one of those people that didn't even know how the placenta, like what happens with the placenta and how it comes out and all of that. Um, but what I did know is that I wanted um like connection and continuity. So I wanted one person. So we had actually engaged with a private midwife, but from memory, I think we were looking at like a shared care sort of thing. So um, now I say all of this that like I don't really remember it because I went into spontaneous labor at 23 weeks and 5 days. So it was like a Friday. I'd felt a bit off or tired like all day at work, but my work was sitting at a like desk. It wasn't anything strenuous. So, but I thought, this is pregnancy. Um, I'm I'm growing an entire human. And so I went to bed at about 6 o'clock at night and then
Before we continue with this episode, I wanted to take a moment to share something for those of you navigating your own VBAC journey. One of the things I hear from women time and time again is how lonely planning a VBAC can be. Maybe you're the only person in your family considering a VBAC. Maybe your friends don't quite understand. Maybe you're leaving appointments with more questions than answers. Or you just have that feeling that you just feel like this isn't right. This isn't how it's supposed to feel. That's exactly why I created the VBAC Village. The VBAC Village is a supportive community of women planning a VBAC who want evidence-based information, connection, encouragement, and a space where they don't have to explain why this journey matters to them. If you're looking for support from women who truly get it, I'd love to welcome you inside. You can learn more at ashleywinning.com/VBAC Village. Now let's get back to today's episode.
Through the night, I was getting like some light cramping but I'd always had like really painful periods. So again, I just thought pregnancy, like it was a symptom. And then so 6 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and I think I'd actually reached out to a friend who had had a baby. And even she probably, I think, said to me, oh, this could just be pregnancy. But I called like the 13 Health or something, like the on-call people, and spoke to them about what I was experiencing. And they told me, look, for peace of mind, just go and get checked. So my husband and I drove in to the hospital, and yeah, it was about 7 a.m. we got there, did some obs and things, and then nothing was sort of out of the ordinary from what we were gathering. They were all just like, yep, everything looks fine. The doctor came around and just said, look, you're having these like consistent cramping, like coming and going. So we're going to, like, can we do a speculum? And I remember there being 4 people. So there was like a doctor and maybe a student doctor, a midwife and a student midwife. And I was like, yeah, sure. Let's get everyone in. And they did the speculum, and literally it was like a move. Like they all like jumped, like it felt like they jumped back. And they're like, the doctor then said to Chris and I, look, there's no other way to say this, but like you're having this baby today. And we were both like, what? Like, so yeah, then from then everything sort of just moved really fast. Like the doctor took Chris and sort of was, comforting him, and one of the midwives was with me, comforting me and just saying like, everything's going to be okay. We're giving you like a shot for steroids for your baby's lungs, and spoke to me about everything that they were giving me for my baby to give him the best chance of survival. And then they said, we're giving you this shot. In 12 hours, we'll give you another shot of steroids for your baby's lungs. So it's really important that you like basically hold on. And I was like, right, that was just my main goal. Hold on. I stayed on the hospital bed, wasn't allowed to get up or anything like that. And then during labor, so while we were waiting for time to tick over, I remember saying to must have been one of the midwives, I was like, I feel like I'm getting like kicks in my vagina or something. And she then got the doctor to come in, and they did a bedside ultrasound, and they're like, yeah, the reason you're feeling kicks there is your baby's now flipped into breech. And so like again, just continued laboring. It was also a posterior labor, which at that time I didn't know, but yeah, I was getting a lot of like back pains. And then I got the second shot of steroids that 7 that night. And then the next morning at about 9, the doctor that had been seeing me came in with a consultant, and they just said, the consultant sort of said, look, this can sort of go 2 ways from here. You can continue to labor and we can break, or you can continue to labor and, but your baby isn't heavy enough to break your waters. So we could break your waters to try and progress labor. And your baby could be born, but your cervix could close on their head. And then you would be going in for surgery. Or, like, he basically said, we've done everything we can do now. Like, you've had magnesium, you've had steroids. We can go in for surgery, have the pediatric team there and get your baby out and get them some support. So,
can I ask you, is there a reason why they said that obviously while this labour is happening, but there was nothing that they could offer to stop the labour at any point?
They said because I was having consistent contractions, and that's right, the speculum said I was fully dilated. So I was fully dilated and having contractions, and they said because it was both that they couldn't, there was nothing we could do to stall it or stop it.
Wow. So then they're like, whoa, this woman's fully dilated, she's definitely having a baby, and they're giving you steroids, and then they're saying, we'll give you more in 12 hours. Like, so they're almost expecting you to still be labouring 12 hours with a fully dilated. Yeah. So that's interesting as well.
Yeah. Well, I was getting so through that waiting that 12 hours, I kept saying, I need to poo. And they were like, don't poo. So I was basically like, my body wanted to push and I was told not to.
Yeah. And you're on your back in the bed.
Yeah.
and you've got back pain, which, is probably caused a lot from being on your back in the bed and
Yes.
not being able to poo. So how hard was that? Because I've been with women, and you probably have as well, where they say, don't push. And the
Yeah.
woman's like, I can't not push.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That
Well, I
hard
mean, now,
and scary.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think it was, though, I think because I was in, like, there was so much stress, shock, all of that adrenaline, my body probably wasn't like, I felt like I wanted to poo, but then my body probably wasn't allowing.
Mm,
Everything was tense. I was like, yeah, I was holding on. Even I remember when I needed to like pass a urine, I was like just petrified of even doing that because I thought any kind of downward pressure would would bring this baby out. And I was like, no, I can't. I need to wait for this next lot of steroids to help
yeah.
him.
You were literally clinging on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
clenching everything.
Wow. Did they ever talk to you about like survival or anything like that during this
Yeah, so
conversation?
um it was actually funny because Thursday. So I had the, I guess, the start or the symptom start of labor like Friday. Um, and then I didn't have my boy until Sunday morning. Um, but the Thursday, my husband and I had one of those tracker apps, and I was like, oh, at 24 weeks, your baby's chance of survival is 60%, not knowing at all that we'd have to be thinking about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so back then, like the stats have changed now in
Yeah.
10 years, but back then it was a 60% survival of a 24-weeker.
And
So,
do you know if the survival, because I've heard a story before where a woman had preeclampsia and she was given like if you have a C-section, the survival for the baby is higher than if you have a vaginal birth.
mm,
Was that ever something that was discussed?
I mean, I can't remember the actual stats, but that's more or less what this consultant was sort of pushing, that the chance of survival, but it was all it could happen. I could have still had baby naturally, and my cervix could have shut around his head. Like it all could have happened. I mean,
Yeah.
it has happened to some people, but obviously then it hasn't happened as well. But this consultant felt like the best outcome was for me to have a C-section, to have him born through C-section.
Were they talking about that before they found out the baby was breech, or was it
No,
kind of after?
it was after.
Yeah.
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 Which I don't know if I later found out that that consultant had exactly that situation happen. So he was speaking to me through that lens. One of the midwives happened to tell me he
Yeah.
had he had the same thing and a different outcome. So
Yeah.
that's why he was really pushing for me to have the C-section.
Oh,
Yeah.
so the baby's born. So basically, because the baby's comes out, and then they're talking about the head being the last part,
Yeah.
and then that getting trapped in at the end because the baby's breech. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
especially because they're artificially breaking the
Yeah.
waters. So it's all the interventions that can cause other things to happen. But yeah, I mean, like it's still to this day, that C-section, as much as it was, the whole birth and postpartum, it was somewhat traumatic. I don't hold any, like, I see that for me as a necessary C-section.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I do. I really, I was given options still. I was presented options and I still made the decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's good to know, like, that there's higher risk for baby when babies are smaller and that sort of thing. And,
Yeah.
you know, I would,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm so interested in this because I don't hear many preemie stories either. So
Oh,
it's really interesting. So I'm
yeah.
interested to
Oh man,
hear.
I wish it wasn't 10 years ago because I feel like I feel like everything's a little bit cloudy. It's
Yeah.
because yeah, I say this often, anyone that's had a preemie, um my first boy, I really didn't know any different. So
Mm,
it was hard for me to really compare. Like I actually felt like um everything that unfolded. I mean, and also we've had the outcome. I've got a healthy 10-year-old boy. Like,
yeah.
obviously if the outcome is different, that's probably going to change how someone feels about their birth and everything. Yeah. So I can't really like the whole experience, even our journey through NICU, it's um as much as I look back and go, wow, I like literally don't know how I got through though, or me and
Mm,
Chris. I'm like, how did we get through that?
it's
Yeah, it was
hard.
I think it was 142 days that we were in hospital with Lakin.
Wow.
Um, and yeah, so 20 weeks in NICU. Yeah, now I can't even remember this.
That's all
Christopher,
right.
it was like 20 weeks in NIC. I'm feeling maybe it was 24. So 20 weeks in NICU and 4 weeks in special care. But anyway, yeah, it was such a big journey. Like, but yeah, I do also look back and just go, wow, like we didn't know any different and we
Yeah.
were sort of just living at the
Surviving.
hospital. Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, surviving. And
Surviving and just like hoping your baby's going to be okay.
well, yeah, that was one of the biggest things. Just not knowing if I was bringing him home and sort of, um, like in the NICU, there's no setup for mum or dad to stay. So there was a lot of separation that we went through with him, like there were days where I just didn't want to leave, but I was, basically not told by the staff. Like it was more for they're like, you need to go home and have a break. You need like go rest. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, but
So we did jump ahead because I asked questions, but let's go
yeah,
back to when you're being told that the baby's breech, and
yep.
then they're talking. Sorry,
All right.
excuse me. Then they're talking about the different options for birth. Then what kind of
Yep.
happens at that stage?
Yeah, so we made the decision to go in for surgery, and I guess from there everything happened pretty quickly. Again, like it
Did they talk
wasn't.
about what kind of surgery it would be?
Yeah, so they did say I would be having a classical C-section.
Mhm.
So that is on my stomach. I've got a low transverse scar, but my uterus is cut from top to bottom because the bottom of your uterus doesn't quite have like that like egg type shape, like where they do cut at the bottom. Again, it's safest to get baby out with the classical scar, so the top to bottom, and just open up the uterus and get baby out.
Because the uterus isn't big enough, right? That's
Yes,
the
yeah,
reason why. So
yeah,
yeah, then they do the top to bottom, which makes it a higher risk for next time. Did they explain that
yeah,
to you after the birth or before the birth or?
yeah, yeah.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure like they did. I think all it was, I don't know if they ever told me that future pregnancies, they must have said something about my, like even the pregnancies, but they said definitely no vaginal birth. And I think at that time, it was, you just think all I want to do is look after this bub. So I'm not even thinking about anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how did you heal after that? Like your baby's I'm imagining you get to meet your baby in theatre
Um,
quickly.
No, I
No?
didn't. I didn't. Chris got to be with him, and I told Chris to go with him and the pediatricians.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't get to see him. Um I think I got to see him. I think they took me up in my bed that night.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first time I saw him. And then the first time that I got to like hold him was 9 days after he was born.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
hard.
yeah. 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 Again, it's like you don't know any different, but yeah, I do. I remember that cuddle, and actually even more than that cuddle, I remember most um like being able to pick him up on my own was actually one of the moments that like it broke me, but I was also like, fire out, some people don't even realize like that I'm so grateful to be bending over and picking up my own baby, and that wouldn't even cross some people's minds. Like, yeah, it was just such a surreal experience. I guess it's because I didn't know if I'd be taking him home. And for so long, for so many weeks, people were picking him up with cords and things attached to him and putting him on me. Like it would always be the midwives or neonatal nurses that would be transferring him onto me or Chris. So yeah, that moment of me just going, oh my gosh, I can pick up my own baby. Like it
Mm.
was, yeah, I can't even, yeah. Oh, all the memories are coming back.
Yeah. It's a lot, isn't it,
Yeah.
to process and, to reflect back on that's what you survived.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was he a Velcro baby?
No.
No.
It was probably, well, yeah, yes and no. Um he did having like contact naps,
Yeah.
which I think they all do.
Yeah.
Um, but he also was very like sensitive, like sensory sensitive.
Yep.
And a baby, you have no idea, like he would be very unsettled, like, and we just could not settle him. Didn't know if it was like reflux because he had been on so many medications. So he did have quite bad reflux, which then we were giving him medication for the reflux. So, um, but yeah, just not knowing if it's like something I'm wearing, if that's just like irritating him, or even his own clothes. Like it, we then later found out in life, I think he was about 4, like he didn't like seams on socks. He didn't like tags on clothes. So this little baby as a newborn being so unsettled, and me and my husband just not knowing how to soothe him and how to settle him. And it could have just been his own clothing that, so yeah. Oh, it was a hard road, but yeah, he's pretty incredible. Like you wouldn't even know he's a preemie. Like,
That's
yeah.
good. That's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then how was that postpartum then? After he got home with you, was it a bit of a
Yeah.
challenge?
Yeah, it was. I didn't know. Again, I didn't know at the time. Like, but looking back, it really was. Like, even, yeah, that whole time in hospital and then eventually coming home, and he came home on oxygen. Um, so I was this new mum that had no idea what she was doing with quite an unsettled bub, who was on oxygen, like, yeah, and then trying to just, even get out to do groceries or something, and there would be people trying to touch him, and I'm like, he's on oxygen, like, like it's really quite interesting. I guess some people feel like engaging with you is, somewhat making it normal, but as like a preemie mum, you're stressing about people touching him or being around you, and like not wanting him to get sick, because yeah, we also had a few few times that we represented at hospital with colds and things like, and what else did he have? Um, yeah, like he did get RSV and he got croup. He got croup quite a lot, and um, because of his lungs, I was always so nervous whenever anything like that popped up. I'd freeze and be like, oh my gosh, we need to get to hospital. Which he eventually grew out of croup, so now he gets the flu and he's fine. But yeah, all those things that you just, yeah. Oh, I've honestly just forgotten some of this stuff.
Yeah, we don't think about it all the time, but I
No.
appreciate you for digging in and sharing that with us, because I know that it would be helpful for other mums who have gone through or
Yeah.
potentially may go through that, because
Yeah.
I think, yeah, the more information, the better.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things for me was actually just speaking to other preemie mums.
Yeah.
Yeah, even just going to mums groups and speaking to other mums, it really, like, I'm not an angry person. Like, I never got angry, but I definitely got really triggered, and I like my energy, and I know that then Laken would have felt my energy being off. So yeah, I would be there and I'd be all happy and smiley, and I'd be like, these people do not get it. They don't know what I'm going through or what I've been through. And then I would get home and I'd probably like shut down a fair bit, and babies pick up on that. Like, I probably wasn't at times as like nurturing, I guess, because I'm just shut down. Like, I was just numb. That's the best way. There was a lot of numbing that I did through that time. Yeah.
How big was
Yeah.
he born?
He was 783
Oh.
grams or 82 grams. But yeah, one of my friends, like, she was like, I've had a sweet potato bigger than him. And I'm like, I know.
Tiny. That is so tiny, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was a good
Wow.
size for that gestation,
Okay.
actually. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. Yeah,
Good.
there's lots of little positives that you never even think of. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, they'd be saying, "Oh, he's a good gestation. He's a good weight for that gestation." I was like, "Okay." Um, yeah. Yeah.
That's good. So then what happened with your second? Was it a planned baby?
Yes. He was a planned baby. I longed for a natural birth with him. I had actually reached out to a hypnobirthing practitioner. I wanted to start doing that. And then I had an appointment because there was a 5-year gap between the boys. So I thought, surely, like, years between, like, surely that's got to work in my favor. And yeah, one of my first appointments, they're like, no, you you cannot have a vaginal birth. Um, and yeah, just really not knowing any different, I was like, oh, I can't. Like, I really wish that the language would change, in that, any medical professional needs to use language that isn't like completely, I guess, gaslighting a woman and saying you can't, saying this hospital doesn't support that, or the policy of the hospital doesn't support it. However, you can still decline, like, you can, decline policy. That's not really the word. No, you can go against policy, or yeah, there's
Something
something.
like it's your choice at the end of the day. I mean,
Yeah.
there are like people out there, who make choices. We have JWs, right? I've got
Hmm.
a friend who's a JW, and they have certain rights. Like, everyone knows when they go into the hospital, they have an advocate that comes out for them,
Hmm.
because they've made it known that we don't accept blood products and we don't accept these things. Now, it is our right as a person to decline anything, whether it's life-saving or not, right? If you
Yep.
go into the hospital, you can decline anything.
Yep.
But
Yep.
when it comes to women in birth,
Mm.
we are not given the same
No.
choices unless you have a really awesome person that you meet. Like I had a
Mm.
really amazing midwife I met, and she's like, you can decline anything and la 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 la. But
Yeah.
that she was like 1 in a million.
But I don't even know if they're going to open. Like, I could be wrong, and I'm willing to be wrong. And if there is someone that listens to this podcast and puts a comment or talks to you, Ash, like, please let me know. But I do feel that even the good eggs in the hospital system aren't necessarily, like, unless you're informed, unless you're like, do I have to say yes, or is there another option? Like, if you're that unaware, which I didn't question at all. I didn't even know what to question. Like,
Mm.
if you know nothing, then you will just be led along one path. You will be
Oh,
led one
100%.
path.
Yeah. 100%.
Um,
Yeah.
I don't know how many are out there, and like I said, I'm willing to be wrong, but I don't know how many would actually say, you know, it's recommended that you have a VBAC, but you can fight that, or,
Yeah.
it's your choice.
Well, let's just put it this way. Like, I had a special scar, not a classical.
Yeah.
Even ACOG or RANSCOG said it was okay for me to labour with the kind of scar I've got,
Yeah.
which is down to my cervix.
Yeah.
When I went and spoke to one of the most amazing OB-GYNs at the time to do a
Mm-hmm.
birth debrief, she
Yeah.
said to me, basically, essentially, she said to me, if you find somebody who supports you, that person is wrong. She said to me, I don't support you. I wouldn't know anyone who would support you. If you find someone who supports you, they're wrong. And when I said, can you provide the evidence? Or can you, because she said, I reckon you've got a rupture rate of 7%. I was like, that's
What?
much, much higher than I've found online. Can
Oh,
you provide evidence? She's like, no, there is none. I'm like, so you're basically just making this stuff up. And you're
yeah.
basically saying you're the best obstetrician because if I don't listen to you, then
Yeah.
every other person's wrong who would
Is
support me.
wrong.
I did find somebody who would
Yeah.
support me too, by the way, in Brisbane, but I have supported other women who are
Yeah.
special scars. And in Brisbane, they don't want to support special scars still.
No.
And, this is today, like this is just a couple months ago. Women are being told the same things like, we want you to have a C-section.
Yeah.
We want you to have a repeat. They'll do everything in their power to make that happen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like my third pregnancy like, it was a wild ride. Like, yeah. And it's because I dipped in and out of the system, right?
Yeah.
With my history of a preterm birth, I wanted medical professionals. I wanted some advice. With my second boy, um, it it showed, like, we found out why I went into labor. So I have a look, I'm going to use the medical term, and then I'm going to use a term that someone else and I came up with because it's much nicer. So I have an incompetent cervix. However, I like to just call it an excited cervix, and it seems to get to 24 weeks and just want to open. So that's what happened with my second boy. So I ended up having a cerclage, or a stitch around my cervix. And yeah, like, that pregnancy really, other than like finding that information out, which, again, that pregnancy, then the information from that helped me in this third pregnancy. So
So what happened in the second pregnancy? You were told you couldn't have a vaginal birth. You went
yeah,
through
so
and
I just was told I couldn't have a vaginal birth.
yeah.
I just sort of accepted that and went, okay. I just continued, like, I was exercising and doing all, like, the same thing as my first. And they said, look, because of your history, like, would you like some extra scans, like an extra ultrasound? And I said, yeah. And then I booked in for one at 23 weeks and 5 days. And at that ultrasound, the sonographer was like, yep, everything looks good. La la la. And I said, oh, it's just, I can't shake this feeling. I've been having some really low kicks again. And she said, well, your cervical measurement on your abdominal ultrasound looks fine, but would you like an internal ultrasound for peace of mind? And I said, yes. And on that scan, she said, it looks like you have no cervix. Like it looks like it's like thinning. So that 23 weeks and 5 days, like it's thinning and again, like could potentially start dilating. So she told me to go straight to hospital, which I did. And I was put on bed rest. And then I had the stitch placed. And along with the stitch, I had progesterone pessaries. And then from there, it was pretty much like a non-eventful. I had a C-section scheduled. They wanted it at 37 weeks. No, they wanted to take the stitch out at 36 weeks. And then they wanted me to have the C-section at 38 weeks. And I was like, that makes no sense. Like, oh, that was the other thing. They put so much fear into me about rupturing that I was absolutely petrified of going into labour. So I say it was a non-eventful pregnancy, but I would have little sensations like Braxton Hicks, and we went up to the hospital so many times because I was like, is this labour? Am I going to rupture? Am I going to die? So, yeah, when they said to me, the stitch out at 36 weeks and C-section at 38 weeks, that made no sense to me because I was like, you're giving me 2 weeks to go into labour and you've told me how I cannot go into labour. So I had to push for the stitch to stay in until the C-section and then the C-section to be brought forward. So
is there a reason why they can't do it all in one? Like, because it would make sense rather than you have to go again, do that, and then do this thing, just like have it all?
I don't know. I can't remember them having any reason. I mean, they didn't want to bring the C-section forward. Like, I obviously know now, like babies, like he wasn't ready to be born then. He ended up going into NICU. So, again, I was like told, oh, this elective C-section, it'll be great. It won't be as, scary or traumatic as your first. You'll get to choose all these things, choose the music and make these choices. And your baby will be born and then he'll be placed on you and you'll go off into recovery together. Well, unfortunately, none of that actually happened. He needed support with breathing. Him and Chris went up to NICU, and I actually find that C-section, I hold more grief around that one than my first, because I was left completely alone. Like all the staff that were in there, I think they have less staff in an elective C-section and more staff in an emergency, because in the emergency I had one of the staff stay with me and they were talking to me the whole time that I was being sutured up because Chris had gone off with our boy. But the second one, I was left completely alone. And so I'm being sutured. I was like, great, I have no baby. I have no husband. I've got no one to talk to me to distract me from what is actually going on here. So I actually find the elective C-section, I have a lot more grief around that, and I really hated that experience. So I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
I think from my experience, they usually have the anesthesiologist nurse. It is their job to look after the patient. And also they usually have like a midwife
Yeah.
who's in the C-section, but then when the baby comes, I suppose they
The
skedaddle
midwife.
somewhere.
Yeah. So I did have a midwife that had been following me through MFM, so maternal fetal medicine.
Yeah,
Um, because of my history of preterm birth and whatnot. But when baby's born, she went with baby and with Chris. And I don't know, where the anaesthetist was, but
yeah.
I remember just being alone and it sucked.
I guess that's the difference between someone who is really good at their job and somebody who, because you notice the difference. Like I remember there was a really amazing guy, and then when the shift changed over, and then there was
Mm,
the replacement was just terrible.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they make all the difference between like you feeling supported or alone
yeah,
or you being nurtured. And,
yeah,
that's what they're signing up for. Human, like the human experience to care for that person.
mm,
Yeah.
yes.
I'm sorry felt that you were alone.
Yeah. Well,
So
it was
scary.
something that was very important to me then through this, like through my third pregnancy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But I mean,
How
with
long was he
Coda,
in how long was he in the NICU for?
yeah, so he was only there for 12 hours.
Uh,
Um, I had him at like 1 o'clock in
mm,
the afternoon. Um, Oh, that was the other thing. I was told that my recovery would be so much better with the elective C-section, and I didn't really find a difference in either of them. Um, so yeah, to see Coda, I went up in my bed again. I'm not someone that can get up straight away after a C-section. Um, yeah. So he was up there, but then he came down to me the next morning. And he did come home with us. So, I think I was discharged on day 3, and he came with us. So that was a beautiful experience that I got to walk out of the hospital with my baby. And his postpartum, I think, again, it was I loved it. Like it's it's like day and night with the not having to go back and forth to the hospital and having my baby and not having to just wake every 3 hours or every 3 hours be attached to a pump. I was breastfeeding him and just the whole experience. I was like, wow, like even the waking up through the night, I was waking up to my baby and I just it was so much better.
that's good. I imagine it would have been a pretty, like you mentioned, it was a really stressful pregnancy the second time round too.
Yeah.
So just
Yeah.
having your baby and not having to stress about their well-being would have been
Yeah.
so nice. Even though when they're
Yeah.
there, we stress about
Well,
SIDS and things like that. But
yes, and
we've
that's
got
the
them with
thing as
us.
well. I think, it's probably also just a second time mum thing. Like I think he had a bit of reflux as well. He would get really unsettled. But I just, I'd go through that mental check like, is he hungry? No. Does he need his nappy change? No. Like, I was just a lot more confident. And probably just not holding as much stress, not thinking, oh, like he wasn't on oxygen. Like there was just so much. I think second time you're just, I don't know, more relaxed, I guess.
Yeah. And then at this point, were you studying to become a doula, or had you started doing that
Oh,
beforehand? Because
yeah.
you mentioned the hypnobirthing.
So through his pregnancy, I had two of my best friends, nope, three of my best friends that were pregnant. And then I had like two other friends fall pregnant when I was in my postpartum, or three other friends. Just my first boy, I was pregnant all by myself pretty much. And then second time round, it was like all my girlfriends. And I was so interested I'm like, okay, what's happening for you? And like, what education and what information are you getting? And, like one of them, One of them had at one of her her like 20-week appointment was told that her placenta was right near her cervix. And so then I went on like my own deep dive of like trying to help her with that decision of whether she actually had placenta previa. And I was like, well, hang on. I started, going, the cervix, like the placenta moves as the cervix grows. And I was like, are you being told that? And it turned out like she hadn't been. Yeah, there was so much that I started to see, and I was like, okay, this is really interesting to me. Like everyone's journey and making sure everyone's got the education and the information that they want. And yeah, so I actually thought I was going to be a midwife. I wanted to be a midwife. And so I was going to put an application through. No, I think I did put an application through. However, my high school scores weren't high enough. And at that time, I was a finance broker, but none of my certificates actually counted towards. And then I was like, well, I've got life experience. Like I've effectively been a NICU nurse for like 6 months. Can I just put that? Could I do like a statement of like personal experience? And they wouldn't accept that. So my only option was to go and do like 1 year of a nursing degree and then cross over into midwifery. But I don't know, something about me. It's like when I want to do something, I want to do it now. So I was like, well, what can I do right now? So I jumped in and did my training in hypnobirthing. So I was doing the hypnobirthing international program, the Mongan method. And once I did that and I started teaching classes, I actually had it was right in the middle of COVID right in the middle of it. And I started having women that had, their mums or their sisters or friends who were interstate or overseas not be able to come for their birth. And so I started getting asked to be with these couples. So I sort of fell into doulaing. And now I think to myself, I am so glad that I got knocked back for being a midwife because, being a doula is 100% me. Wanting to just empower women to, lead their birth and not that I think all midwives present themselves as the expert in a woman's birth, but there are a lot out there that do.
Yeah. So that was happening while you were pregnant and in your postpartum?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when did baby number 3? What happened with baby number 3?
So actually, when I was working as a doula, there was one midwife that I just absolutely loved. I loved her philosophy. I loved her as a person. We would connect and we'd chat and I would ask her things like, this is what I've seen, am I wrong in thinking? There were things that I would ask her that I would say, this is what they're doing in the hospital. And I just, I don't feel like that's absolutely necessary. One of them was, which is becoming more and more known. I was like, vaginal exams make no sense. It's pretty much how they can introduce infection and, they're also going up there. And no wonder people are they say the cervix is regressing in dilation. It's because it's no, thank you. I'm going to just shut up now. Anyway, so she basically just helped me with understanding what I was going through, what I was seeing, what I was experiencing. And I happened to ask her one time, I was like, hey, I don't know if my husband wants a third baby, but just here's my history. And she's a home birth midwife. I was like, could you support me? Or could someone support me? Could I have a vaginal birth? And she literally just planted that seed for me, just said, of course you can. Of course, if you want a vaginal birth, you can have a vaginal birth. And I was like, oh, like, is there anyone that would support me? Like, isn't it too risky and this and that? And it just sent me, like, as soon as someone gave me that one little, like, of course you can, I was like, right, what do I need to find out? Like, what do I need to know? What do I need to learn? What do I need to unlearn? Like, what are the stats? And I just wanted all the information. So, yeah, this little girl pretty much I feel like it would have been I feel like I would have been about 18 months postpartum when that conversation was had. So it's sort of, what am I now, 5 years? So what, 4.5 years, no, 3.5 years of like pretty much planning, learning. And just, yeah, I honestly thank all the births that I also got to attend, because all of them just showed me like all different births. And yeah, there's just so much magic in women just seeing birth, like as a support person, or as, yeah, just not necessarily them being the woman having the baby, but like so much of birth is still hidden away, isn't it, in hospital? So we don't get to see it all.
Yeah, I've found this myself attending like hospital births versus home birth, because I'm
Oh,
home birth minded and I've been in this space for so long now.
yeah,
I've learned what can happen, what should happen in birth.
yeah,
And then we spend all our time in hospital trying to fight for that to happen.
yeah,
But unless you see home births or unless you see free births,
yeah.
you're not ever going to see that. And then the more you're in hospital, you have a distrust and you
Mm-hmm.
question. And so when I go in there, I'm thinking, what are these lunatics doing? Like,
Yeah,
this
I
makes no
know.
sense.
Yeah.
But if I was working there for years and years and years and I was only seeing that, it would become very normalized to me.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's like very imperative for me to, it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to see those births, but it's so important for me to
Yeah.
stay in the home birth lane, because that's where I feel like everyone needs to experience. It's like obstetricians need to come into home
Oh my
births and
gosh.
see,
Yes.
because you can read all the
Absolutely.
theory, but until you experience it, you don't know the magic that can happen. And yeah, it's been like, it's just wild. And I think everyone should experience it. Baby, like children should
Yes.
experience it. It should just become such a normal thing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And once I guess you do see that, and once you understand what your body, your baby, your birth hormones need, the environment that's needed, you're
Yeah,
sort of like, well, stepping foot in that in a hospital is the complete opposite of what is needed. And no wonder, yeah, it's, I just keep saying to people, like, the problem is created so then they can give you the solutions. Like, the problem is the bright lights, the strangers, the even relocating. Like, not, there are obviously women that back in the day they'd have to run from danger to birth their babies, but more often than not, it's women are naturally going, they're, what's the word? No, I can't think of it. You're like, you're sort of bunkering down when you're pregnant, and nearing those final days, you're wanting to just sort of stay around home and get really comfortable setting up your birth space and things like
yeah,
that. And then there's so many that get up and in the middle of labor and relocate to the
yeah,
hospital.
yeah.
So,
Setting up like a little birth nest that's like safe at home. Yeah.
yes. Yes.
Yeah. And then when you hear stories like, all this happened, that they were doing so well at home, they get to the hospital, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, but like
Yeah.
you've got to realize that they're going into a hospital, so they're going to be frightened at this
Yeah.
stage, and then they treat you that way
Yeah.
because they're not having the lightning bolt, oh, this is because they need more time. It's just a nightmare. It's really, really
Yes.
challenging.
Yeah. No, definitely.
So was this third baby planned? Oh, it
Yes.
was, yeah, because you
Yeah.
spent 3.5 years planning for this birth, going to
Yeah.
other people's births, learning as much as you could,
Yeah.
exploring your options, and
Yeah.
where did you end up?
Yeah. So, um, as I mentioned at the start, like we were traveling. So we were still in the caravan, but we pulled up on the Sunshine Coast, which is where my husband and I are originally from, and we've got family here. Because I figured I'd need some support with my boys whilst pregnant and trying to homeschool and do all the things. Um, yeah, so we pulled up, and I started like exploring my options with some private midwives around here. Um, Now, so much of me was like, you know, free birth. Like, I definitely felt like staying as far away from the hospital was the safest thing for me, like, because I knew how much I would have to fight. I knew the fight would be up. And I know that that birth being in a fighting energy wasn't going to help me in labor. Um, but then I also knew that I didn't want to be in my own head. I did want to outsource that to someone else, someone that I trusted and someone that could, you know, observe and say if they thought they were noticing something that was like a variation of normal, that they could then gently sort of let me know. I didn't want to put that role onto my husband. I wanted him as my support and not I didn't want him having to, I guess sort of assess the situation and, being a male, thinking he had to fix things. So I really did feel like, okay, I do want someone else. And I did want some feminine energy in the birth space as well. So it was a real, like, I went through this real, free birth, doula, private midwife, like what was sort of the right thing for me. And yeah, so I landed with private midwife, interviewed a few around here, and thought I had sort of set on one, had another meeting with her, and no, that's not what happened. I was told that no one would support me at home, but a midwife would support me in the hospital. Um, yeah, she could support me in the hospital. And then at the first meeting, she spoke to me about having to, get all my proof and my evidence of why I should be able to birth in the hospital and to present that to the obstetrics team. And I was like, after that appointment, I was like, no, like this is still, I'm having to convince someone about what I want to do. I'm having to ask permission for what I want to do. I still felt like I had to fight for what I wanted. So, yeah, I felt pretty disheartened after all that, got very emotional, and then picked up the phone and called my midwife that I had spoken to years before. And I said, "What's your availability?" And she's on the Gold Coast and she's like, "Look, I can't come to the Sunshine Coast. I've got other clients." And I totally understood. And but she said, "Yep, I've got availability for when you're like around your due time." And so I looked at my husband and I was like, "All right, so this is what's happening." We're relocating when I'm like 38 weeks pregnant. We're going to go to the Gold Coast and we're having support from this midwife. And I think the poor fella was just like, okay, but he's like he never said it to me, but definitely was like, I already knew you were crazy, but yeah, you're crazy. But he just supports.
Was he okay with the whole home birth situation?
Um, I think at first, no. I think he was pretty nervous. But can I say like names of podcasts that I listened to?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started sending him a lot of the Great Birth Rebellion. So Mel Jackson, like debunking a lot of things. And so he listened to a couple of those and then was like, okay. And I would send him different like research. Like I had the book, Dr. Hazel Keetal's book.
Yeah.
What's that one? Vaginal birth after Caesarean. And I showed him like statistics in that. And sort of just got him as much as I could on like giving him the information that I had as to why, I was making this decision. And I said, like, there was also a lot of like, I didn't want him. I said, if we go into the hospital, it's going to be a lot of you fighting. Like, I might say no, but I've also seen them play dad off against mum and be like, I know she said no, but we're really concerned about this and that. And what do you think? And I was like, I don't want you to have to like listen to that. And then I don't want you speaking for me, basically, as well. If I say no, it's no. Like, it's not you're going to then sway my decision. It was really just like be at home because that's where I felt the safest. That's where I know everything would just unfold. There wouldn't be interventions. There wouldn't be any sort of like scare tactics.
Pressure.
Any pressure in labor. No. And I just also I just felt so strongly that I would know. And it's like, I would know if something's up. And I'd seen that with mums. I'd seen that with a mum that was free birthing. And, at one point she was like, well, something's not right. And none of us, there was nothing to say something wasn't right. But then, we went into hospital and, I mean, it wasn't like an emergency thing, but she needed some help. So she was onto it. And and the same with my 24-weeker. Like I used to say that to all my couples in hypnobirthing. There was not a machine. There was not a professional. I made a call to someone to ask what I was experiencing, but I knew that that's why I made that call. I knew that something was up long before anyone else told me something was up. So I really believe that we know before anyone else. And I also midwives, they're having a midwife, she is trained. I knew that she could handle almost everything that would have presented at home and then we could transfer if needed. That was the plan. Be at home.
So if the plan was you coming down to the Gold Coast at 38 weeks, does that mean you were having virtual appointments with your midwife, or how did that work out?
Yeah. So I was having just phone appointments with her. I also, so a little in my own head, I actually didn't know if I would make 38 weeks because I'd had the 24-weeker, I had the elective C-section at 37 and 5. So I didn't really know when I gestated to, when I would gestate to. So it was sort of like, okay, this is the plan. This is what I would like to happen. If I go into labour before 35 weeks or something, well, I'm going to hospital. These were the sort of things that I basically tried to have a plan for every situation. So I was still engaging with the hospital on the Sunshine Coast.
Did you get the stitch this time?
No. So actually, that's another thing where my midwife helped me with making decisions. And I will also say there was a doctor that helped me make this decision at the Sunny Coast Hospital. I'd sort of had in my head from 14 weeks I would get the stitch as like a preventative. And they presented me with information that progesterone pessaries from 16 weeks were showing really good, like the evidence, the research was showing really good outcomes for women with incompetent cervix. So I started the progesterone at 16 weeks. I was having like fortnightly internal monitoring to check the length of my cervix, because I also then wanted to know if I was shortening, that would be like a hard, I'm going in to get this stitch placed. But yeah, the progesterone was great for me. It shortened a little bit, but it wasn't, I was still like, I can't remember my exact measurements, but nothing sort of fell below a certain threshold that I had. And so I didn't want a surgery. Like, that was the whole thing of, wanting a vaginal birth, having a stitch placed, you still need a spinal, it's still surgery. I didn't want that. So yeah, less intervention was what I was really hoping for this pregnancy and this birth. And that's why, I guess, erring like, let's see what the progesterone does, but I have a threshold of what I want to do. And I'm really happy that, yeah, the progesterone worked for me and I didn't need the stitch this time. Yeah, and then other than that, like, this is probably the best pregnancy I had. I did acupuncture, I did osteo, and so I had like I felt so good, like the whole pregnancy. Yeah, no real back pain. I was sleeping. Like, I was still sleeping through the night, apart from maybe getting up to pee, but then I'd fall straight back asleep. So, yeah, it was great. And then came 38 weeks, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're actually going to the Gold Coast. Like, we're relocating and we're going to be at the place that I'm going to have a baby. And we'd only booked 2 weeks of accommodation because I was like, surely. And the doula in me, I think I said to you, Ash, I was like, the doula in me is like, count down to 42 weeks, like just count down. But then the mum of a 24-weeker was like, there is absolutely no way I'm having a baby. Like, I'm having a baby after 40 weeks. So, yeah, I booked 2 weeks accommodation. It got up to the 40 weeks and I looked at Chris and I was like, I'm still pregnant. Like, what the hell? This is crazy. And then all the mind games started. Like, it was coming up to Easter. And so I didn't know if we'd be able to extend our accommodation. Thankfully, the unit that we had booked, the owners actually wanted to get a long-term tenant in. And so they were so good. They literally just let us go. Like, I think we paid for, 3 nights and then 3 nights and then 3 nights. And we just kept going like that. But yeah, it got up to near Easter. And I started going, yeah, it was like after 41 weeks, I started going like, I think I'm just going to have to like have a C-section. Like,
When did we chat?
yeah, so we spoke.
It was before you decided to extend, right?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think,
It
because
was
I'd already
40
extended
weeks.
a few times.
Yeah.
Like, when I spoke to you, we'd already extended maybe a week. I feel like I was
Okay.
41 weeks when I
Okay.
spoke and reached out to you. I just want to backtrack a little bit and just say, when I got to the Gold Coast, I actually had an appointment with the Gold Coast Hospital as well,
Yes.
because
That's right.
because in the case of transfer, I wanted them to know about me and I wanted them to know that I was there. But in doing that, and you know what? I thought I'm pretty strong. I know my staff. like, I know what they're going to say to me because I'd already had some of these conversations on the sunny coast. But no matter what, like, those conversations friggin' rock you. Like, every time I walked out of them feeling stupid, feeling reckless, feeling like just so rubbish. I cried. Like, yeah. So I actually want to write to both hospitals. Not I want to, I am going to write to them and tell them how they can counsel women better, because never, when I went in there, never did they always went over the same things. They never told me anything new. And I was like, what is the purpose of this conversation? Like, you're not presenting me with anything new. Nothing had changed for me. No, like, it's not like my blood pressure had spiked and they're like, well, we're actually concerned. It was just all this, like, it could happen. Like, you could rupture in labor. It was all this, it could happen. And so it started me like spiraling in, like, I don't even want to go in there. Like, even if I feel like something's up, I don't think I want to be there. And I don't want that particular doctor to be supporting me, even though she said, oh, if you come in, we will support you. I didn't feel that. Like, that's not what I felt at all from the conversation. But there was some doctors that were really good in how they counselled. So anyway, I just wanted to add that because, yeah, that's where I started spiraling. My accommodation was coming to an end. It was Easter. My boys were actually got, like, we put my boys back on the Sunshine Coast with my parents because they're just very active, and I was like, I just want to rest. And yeah, so there were all these things, and I actually started going, this is why I reckon some women just book C-sections. Like, everything was starting to get too hard, you know? And I, like, was often looking at Chris and I was like, I feel so selfish. Like, I've put us in this position, you know, and like, but then never in my life have I put myself like above everything and everyone. And so I was, again, having that head and heart, like, no, this is the time I'm going to be selfish. This is what I need. This is what I want. And this is how me and this baby, like, this is happening. But yeah, really having to like let go of the people pleaser, the good girl. It was like this whole roller coaster. So I am like so thankful that I had a little pep talk with you, because it is like absolutely what I needed to just go, okay, I've been planning this home birth for months. Like, you know, do whatever, like whatever you can do, like the resources, get the things together to make this, like, give yourself the best chance.
Yeah.
Which is what you said to me. Like,
Yeah.
give yourself the best chance. Like, you've
Yes.
already done it. Like, you've already come this far. And I was like, yep.
Get across the finish line.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's so hard at that last stage. So I remember saying all those things to you, like, it's ludicrous to like bail out now. Like,
Yeah,
we're
I know.
so close. You've just got to get to the finish line.
Like,
You're
looking back, I'm
worthy.
like, what was I thinking? Like, why didn't I
Yeah.
just go, nah, like,
I would
you
feel the
know, yeah.
same. And it's like, you just need to be told that you're worthy enough.
Yeah.
And you were
Yeah.
worthy enough. And it's
Yeah.
just the people pleaser. Get out
Oh
of
my
us.
gosh. I know. And that's like, see, this is the thing. Even as a doula, like, you know, I doulaed myself so much, and I told my husband like what I needed. I knew he would be my like the best doula for me in labor, but he was not it. He wasn't what I
He was not
needed.
it.
No, through
He was not
pregnancy.
it.
Sorry, through pregnancy. He was amazing in my labor, but
Okay.
in pregnancy,
Yeah.
it like I needed you, right? I
Yeah.
needed another woman. I needed someone that I trusted, someone that I could just lay it all out and be like, "Oh, this is all the stuff in my head, like help."
Yeah. And how did you feel with your midwife? Because obviously getting to 41 weeks and everything, how was she supporting you?
She was incredible as well. And like but I don't think she could have the conversation with me like you could, because, I've obviously, like, I've paid her. I said, oh man, it's like, what I said to you is, like, I'm extending our family financially. Like, I've already extended us. I don't think she would be the person to say, well, just like put all your eggs in the basket, because I don't feel like that's necessarily something. She was just like supportive of, what feels right for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And she
That's the
was very
beauty.
supportive in when I started going, oh, far out, I think I just need to book this C-section. She didn't encourage that, but she just said, if that is the path that you choose, what would you want that to look like, and what would you need? Because that's what she could like help with,
Yeah. I want to share with people, because now that I'm working with women in birth, right, I feel, because I've been working with women virtually for a long time now, but the roles are very different. And what
Yeah.
I find is the benefit of my not being at birth is that I can be so completely honest with people.
Yeah.
In a like, I'm not, worried about how I'm going to show up in birth or any of that stuff. And so when you are a doula, you have to give a different support.
Yeah.
And you probably find this yourself, because you're going to be going into that birth with that person.
Yeah.
But when I get to work virtually, I get to call out the shit. Like, and I really love it. I'm like, people have a different kind of trust because they can be so vulnerable.
Yeah.
But when you know that that person is coming into your birth, you're like, you don't want to let them in with all of the worries and concerns in case that like hinders the support or something that's going to happen on the day as well.
Yeah.
And that's what I've noticed, a huge difference between the two. And I really love being able to do the two different support things.
Yeah. No, well, I guess, knowing what I know, like the role that you play and can play for women, like even if they've got a doula, and just needing like someone else as well to sort of let things out. If like, I mean, none of us are perfect. Like, I'm sure there's things at births that I've done that women are like, that's hurt them in a way or something. And being able to, I always would offer debriefs. I'm sure you do. But sometimes then it's not those people that you want to debrief with, because there's something they said that, that you were like, oh, I didn't need to hear that. Or, that really, that sparked a memory for me that, and then, perhaps you don't want to talk about,
that with them. Yeah. And now that I work in birth, I understand how incredibly hard it is to be in birth with women.
Yeah.
How much of a tight rope it is to remember all the things that could upset them, all the things, like, because we hold on to so much when we're in there. So it's just an intense job, like being a doula in births or being a midwife in births. I have so much more respect for midwives now who are just walking through the fire to support us in our births, because it really is just so challenging.
Yeah, definitely. And, I still even think that no matter how close the bond is that a woman and a midwife or a woman and a doula have, there's so much life that life experiences that we've gone through, and you don't even know what's going to come up for you in birth. No. And it's like, oh, I didn't even, maybe I didn't even tell this midwife or doula this thing that happened to me when I was 16 or something, and it's just triggered, like that memory has been triggered. Like, there's just, oh gosh, it's so much.
another topic that I would like to discuss sometime, because I think it's so interesting to hear from women who are birthing, to hear how the doula's perspective. So I'm going to have some doulas on to talk about this, because I think it's good to get into the mind of like how they're feeling. And anyway, that's a future thing. So you're in this space where you're now talking to the midwife about potential how a C-section might look.
Yeah, so I've spoken to her, and then, oh my gosh, like, love her, love my husband. They literally just held me and you through every, like, it was a roller coaster. I was booking in for a C-section. I was booking in on the Gold Coast. Then I was like, no, wait, I don't want to have a C-section and then drive back to the Sunshine Coast like 2 days after. So maybe if I'm having a C-section, maybe we do it on the Sunshine Coast. And then, so my midwife was making phone calls because there was some certain things that I wanted. I wanted to be able to have Chris and another support person with me at either hospital because I didn't want the experience of being left alone again. And I wanted someone that I knew with me. I didn't want just someone at the hospital. So yeah, she was making these phone calls, and then after she'd made the call to Gold Coast, I had one of the doctors call me, and she was like, she spoke down to me like 100%. Like, why, if you're planning on a C-section, why don't you just come in today and get it? And I was like, because I'm still giving myself time. I still want a vaginal birth. I'm still just trying to figure out what this all could look like. And then she was like, and I heard that you want to drive to the Sunshine Coast. Well, I strongly advise against driving to the Sunshine Coast because you could go into labour and have your baby on the side of the highway, and the outcome for you and your baby on the side of the highway would be catastrophic. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, from the moment that was all said, I just completely disengaged. I just wanted to get off the phone as fast as I could. And I called my midwife and told her what was said. And I was like, I can't even believe that that's what that woman believes. And that's what she's saying to me. Like, I do not want to even go near her. Like, I don't like that fear. And that's an insight into what she believes. Like, my midwife was like, you can't tell women that on a 2-hour drive. Like, what's the difference between you having a 2-hour drive and you going and walking around Kmart for 2 hours? Like, that is just fear, misinformation at its finest.
I remember you telling me that. When you're now, when you're telling me it again, I'm just getting these images of all the videos I've seen where women are giving birth on the side of the road, and it's totally fine. I'm just like, it actually looks like really nice, like just chilling. Sure, they're probably a little bit scared, but most of the time they're like second, third time they've been through this before, and it's like it looks great. Honestly, ideal.
Yeah, I was like, my midwife said, oh gosh, if your labour's that quick, usually quick labours, there's no issues at all, and you'll just have a baby. And I'm like,
just
fantastic.
Like in the movies, when your water's break, then the baby just pops out.
And then the baby's here.
Yeah.
But also, like, I just, like,
there's multiple hospitals on the way.
Was an issue, right? Yeah. You and I said that. I was like, oh my gosh, I could go to Logan, Brisbane.
Yeah, there's like 5 in Brisbane, and that, like, it's crazy to think about. Yeah. I couldn't believe it when I heard you say that. I just thought, it doesn't surprise me though, but it's just like, are you for real? Yeah, I know. And that's it. Like, the things that they say, and they must believe it. Like, because, it's outrageous. It is. So that helped you disengage at that point? And
I was pretty much like, oh my gosh, no. And then I reached out to you and had the power hour session with you, and I was just like, that's exactly what I needed. I'm back in, my head's back in the game. I was like, right, this is happening. I'm sorry, Chris. Please go ask to extend. And then it must have been like 2 days after I spoke to you is when, like, my labour actually started. And the most hilarious thing is that I just gaslit myself the whole way through labour, because I was like, oh, I've seen this before and I've seen this fizzle out. So the whole time I just, like, I woke Chris at like 2:00 in the morning on the Friday morning, And it was just to put the TENS machine on because I'd heard, put it on earlier because that can like help manage like the sensations for you. So I got him up and I was like, just put this on, but go back to bed because this, like, I'm feeling some sensations, but it could all fizzle out by the time morning's here. And I guess him being him and I say not really experiencing labour. He was there for the first one, but it was a whole different, that was totally different. But anyway, he was up and he was up and it was funny. I reckon he had 4 coffees by the time it was like 6 a.m. By the time daylight, I remember thinking to myself, like, this guy's got to stop having coffees. Like, but yeah, I called my midwife at 4 and I was like, look, I think things have started, but it was really funny as well because, understanding like textbook physiological labor and how like contractions are a pattern and they're sort of spaced apart and then they gradually get closer together. Well, of course, there was no pattern. It was like they were coming every minute 30 and then every 3 minutes and every 7 minutes, which then as well made me think, well, this is going to fizzle out. And I was also getting like one strong contraction and one weaker contraction. But yeah, nothing fizzled. It even continued like that. Even my midwife said, yeah, you really had no pattern. I was like, I know. That's why I kept telling myself that this wasn't actually it. But yeah, at home, so she came around 9 o'clock in the morning. I had been labouring like out in a living room. I'd gone into a bedroom. I was in our ensuite. Just really loving like forward leaning, whether I was like on my knees or over the like bathroom sink. Or over the couch. And then I eventually, because I wanted to use water when things really started heating up. It must have been around 9 is when I used the shower and when she got there. But I was just getting so hot as well. So it was like, I thought I'd love water. I did, but then I was getting really hot. So I got out of the shower. And it must have been around 10 o'clock or 9:30, 10. She said to Chris, why don't you pump up the pool and get that all happening? The poor guy got that all set up. I got in, had 2 contractions. I was like, no, not in here. So I got out. I just kept rotating around, moving into different spots. My midwife was very like, when Chris wasn't with me, she stepped in closer. But other than that, she was away. I didn't even really, like, she was there, but not there. Like, it was just beautiful. She put her hand on my back at one point and just did like some light tickles. And I was just like, oh, that's nice.
I've seen her work before as well. And I just love the support she offers.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the stuff that dreams are made of. Like when we talk about a home birth midwife, that's what we're looking for. Somebody who can read the room and come in and come out. And I love that.
And that was, her this whole, like through the whole pregnancy as well, there were things that would pop up. I'd call her, I'd ask for information. She'd give me information. Then I'd make decisions and, there was some, like through my pregnancy, I had one blood pressure problem and she spoke to me about it. So if anyone listened, like it was a vasovagal episode where, babies put pressure on things and make you feel a bit funky. And she gave me that reassurance that I needed. And then like, it was, her support was just like, I cannot fault it. In labour, like most women, couldn't make many decisions, was trying to get comfortable in doing things, trying different things, not knowing what I wanted, but knowing what I definitely didn't want. And
That's important though, isn't it? You know, you're like,
yes,
this is not comfortable, this is not comfortable, but I don't know what I want. And you're running around
yeah,
trying to get
yeah,
comfortable.
yeah. Or like even, I wanted a drink. I was like, I'm thirsty. And Chris is like, do you want water or coconut water? And I was like, I don't want water. And he's like, okay, coconut water. Do you want this flavor or that flavor? I'm like, I don't
Oh
care.
yeah, too
Like
many decisions. Yeah.
some of his questions, I'm like, I don't care. Just make the
Yeah.
decision for me.
Yeah.
But then it got to about like 10:30 in the morning, and yeah, like I don't know I can't remember what I said firstly, like, but my midwife was just like, yeah, this is labor. I think like I was just like, oh, this is hard. She's like, yep, it is hard. And then I started getting this, I will say pain, because it was uncomfortable, and it was a pain, and it was in my side between my ribs and my hip, and it was radiating into my back. And, because I had engaged with the hospital, like they, rupture, but I also knew what a majority of people experienced if it was a rupture. And I mentioned to my midwife, I got this pain. It's there. It's constant. It's not my contractions, and it's there when I'm not having a contraction, but it's nowhere near any of my scars. And she was like, she checked baby. She looked at me, she's like, again, like the reassurance sort of thing. I'm not noticing anything. Like, everything is progressing well. Baby's fine. And I was like, I cannot get out of my head about this pain in my side. And she said, well, I can get a second midwife here for another opinion. And I was like, no. And then, what else? I can't remember what else I said. She just then presented, well, okay. I said, no, I can't be here. And she was like, okay, well, would you want to wait 30 minutes and just see if it goes away? Have a drink and whatever. And I said, no. And then she said, well, I can get another midwife. No. And she said, okay, well, then we can go to hospital. And I said, yep, I want to do that, but I can't get in a car. And she's like, okay, well, if you can't get in a car, we call an ambulance. And I was like, yep, I can't be here and I can't get in a car. And she goes, well, that's going to hospital and I call an ambulance. And I was like, yep, sure. So, yeah, everything from there, like, I think the ambulance guys took 15 minutes or something. And then it took me forever to get into the ambulance. They were like, just lay on the bed. I'm like, that's not happening. So, yeah, anyway, we transferred into hospital. So
That's the thing, isn't it? Like, you think a car's uncomfortable, but then they actually want you to lay down on a stretcher.
Yeah.
When you go in the ambulance, which is like, can be even more
Yeah. So I don't know
uncomfortable.
if it was against, like, whether they would have got in trouble, but I did not lay. I was on all fours. I was like, I'm not, sorry, it's not happening.
Were you on the stretcher on all fours?
Yeah.
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 When you made the decision to go into the hospital, do you remember what you were like? I don't want to be here, but was there something in your mind that you wanted at the hospital, or was something that was saying to you that they could
Well,
offer you?
I was just like, well, whatever this is, it's not getting out of I can't get out of my head. So I felt like I wasn't going to be able to relax. And that, yeah, that wasn't where I then felt safest.
Yeah.
So for me, it was all like, well, I don't know. And then, I think Nicole did say, they're probably going to talk to you about a C-section. I was like, that's fine. And she's like, are you at that point? I said, no. So there was we were having little conversations still. But yeah, I don't know. Well, when I tell the rest of the story,
Yeah.
I can't, there was something telling me that I didn't want to be there, which after months of planning and thinking there is no way that I will go into hospital. And there was nothing that was actually really presenting as wrong, if you know what I mean. Like it wasn't a panicky thing. It wasn't like I just couldn't get out of my head. I was like, I don't know if I can relax. I guess I thought for some reason I may relax more because I'm at a place if I need help. That was maybe what I was thinking. I don't know.
Who came with you in the ambulance?
My midwife came with me, and then Chris drove.
Yep.
That was like just one comment. The ambulance guys are not trained in like delivery of babies, really. And they were, I think, mildly panicked, which like I never actually picked up on it. I was way too focused on myself. But I remember the conversation of like, she had scans in this pregnancy. And my midwife's like, yes. They're like, is baby head down? She's like, oh, that would be fun for you guys, a breech birth in the back of an ambulance. And that just made me laugh. Like, yeah. So anyway, but yeah, so we got there. I was taken into birth suite where I actually had two of the most incredible hospital midwives because they were very protective of the birth space. And once I said no to things, there was no more questions. So I was asked about a cannula and I said no. I was asked about CTG and I said not at this point. And I was there for 15 minutes without Chris. And then he was there and I was holding on to him and just standing like over the bed. And so he was only there for 30 minutes before our little girl was born. And in that 30 minutes, we had the pediatric team try to come in to check the baby's equipment, and the midwives in the hospital were like, we've already done it. Mum wants you to wait outside. She doesn't want anyone else in the room. And then 4 minutes before my girl was born, the doctors were they were like, can we come and take mum's bloods? And my midwife was like, Mel, do you want your bloods taken? I was like, no. So yeah, it's just crazy. In the 30 minutes that we were there, well, Chris was there for 30. I was about 45 minutes. I had 2 interruptions and yeah, we both look at us like go, oh my gosh, imagine like if you were there for 12 hours, like that's the constant interruptions that can actually interfere with your birth. But yeah, so Lola was born like head, shoulders, body all in one contraction. Like I do know that the midwives were like, just, slowly. And I was like, I'm not doing anything. Like it's just happening. So she came out and she I don't know. The weird thing was, so she had actually aspirated on meconium, but none of us actually know when my waters broke because until that, like up until that point, my waters hadn't broken. So that's all a little bit of a mystery. But yeah, she had aspirated on meconium and did need some like breathing support. So, it's all stuff that could have been managed, but still probably would have resulted in a transfer. But again, not necessarily like in an emergency type thing. Like she, she recovered sort of 30 minutes after birth. But yeah, that's why I am like, I feel like that was her or my intuition. Something was telling me that I needed to transfer, and it wasn't, I guess everyone sort of thinks, a transfer is going to look like, oh, it's an emergency and this is scary. Like it wasn't scary. Yeah, it just all unfolded as it needed to.
Yeah, but also you used your voice in there and you had a team that asked you
Yes.
questions, and I think that matters. If you had
Yes.
allowed things to happen to you and the disruptions, we don't know how that could have unfolded.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I think
definitely.
sometimes people think that if they're transferring, then they can't use their voice and still decline
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Because you've gone to the hospital. Well, I've seen some doctors on TikTok, like these home births come in and then they decline things. It's like, yes, but they might be coming in for, pain medication. So all
Yeah.
they want is the pain medication, but they
Or
don't
like
want your fingers up
fluids,
there.
or, I had a mum go
Whatever.
in once just to get her bladder drained. Like she
Exactly. Something like
needed
that's
help.
so helpful.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't have to consent to everything else. You can
No.
actually say, and I've done it myself, gone in with a woman who's just gone, no, I don't want that. No, I
Yeah.
don't want that. I mean, her baby's head was coming out of her vagina and they're
Yeah.
asking all these things. She's like, no, I
Yeah.
don't need that. The baby's about to be like, I feel
Yeah.
good. And then 2 minutes
Yeah.
later, the baby's out. It's like,
Yeah.
we don't need to be worrying about all that
Yeah.
stuff.
That's
Yeah.
it. They the doctors said to my midwife, I think, oh, we just wanted bloods in case she had to go to theatre. And she's like, we could see the head. Like,
Yeah,
there's no going to theatre.
exactly.
But
Yeah. And you
yeah.
advocated for yourself so well as well.
Well, yeah, I guess it's all that prior work, I knew that I wasn't actually transferring for any, like my baby's heart was fine. Like I didn't actually, apart from this like thing on my side, which I don't even know, like it wasn't there. I didn't notice it after I'd had her. So 45 minutes later, it wasn't a thing. I don't know what it was, and I guess we never will, but yeah. Um, yeah, just all the prior work, knowing, okay, like they offered me CTG. It might look like a CTG is harmless, but I knew that often it actually causes more fear because, they lose connection or they pick up my heart rate and not babies. And so I was like, we've actually had all this time I've just been using a Doppler and my baby's been fine. I don't really feel like I now need to change things. And it doesn't improve the outcome for either of us. Like, yeah. So like it was all of that. It wasn't, and yeah, I do think my midwife stepped into a beautiful support role. Like she wasn't necessarily my voice, and I don't think any support person can be your voice, but she helped me to have a voice. So she asked me questions like, what else? There was another thing she asked me, and I was like, oh, maybe it was just the blood. Like, Mel, do you want your bloods taken? And I was like, no. Like, yeah. Yeah. Um,
And after baby was born, what happened?
mm,
Because she
uh,
aspirated, did they take her to the PDO, the table away, or did you get to have her on
yeah.
your?
Yeah. So, like, that's something that I haven't, I guess, really figured out. And yeah, again, it's probably one of those things I'm thinking it because of what I've witnessed. And I'm like, that was one thing. The hospital midwives, their fear of like baby coming out and just yeah, like I guess her color was a bit off, and like the way she presented was a bit off, but I wasn't even given the opportunity for her to go on me with the cord still attached just to see if she needed a little bit of time, because like she was born head, shoulders, body. Like she was probably just completely shocked. But that was one thing I wasn't actually like, I wasn't asked, but they did cut the cord immediately and take her because of their concerns. And I'm like, oh, like I wasn't actually asked. And so I couldn't have said what I really wanted. And would placing her on me have changed her color and her, like, the way she appeared, you know what I mean? And keeping her attached to her placenta, which has been her life support for the last 9 months. So it's all like, yeah, there's still these what ifs, and it's really only just because I've sat with, like, okay, I had the emergency C-section but my baby went to NICU. I had the elective C-section and my baby went to NICU, and I've had the vaginal birth and my baby went to NICU. And I never got that feeling of a baby being born and just placed on me, which is what I did. I did want. I did want that. But it's one of those things, like, I am still, like, it's this, like, these things can coexist, right? I loved my birth and I hold a little bit of sadness on what I didn't get to experience. Like,
Yes.
it didn't all unfold 100% as I wanted, but it was by far the best experience out of the three. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel you. My baby, my free birth was the only one who went to NICU.
Aww.
And I don't know if that was needed at all either. And so,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it is about the overall picture and how you felt through the experience. And, you know, we can't, like, I think Instagram and that, we see these beautiful home births, and birth is just not like that for everybody. Everyone has different experiences. And I think when you're being respected, when you're being supported, when you've got a beautiful team around you, when you're able to use your voice, I think those things are the most important things. And life happens.
Yeah.
And we can't go back and change certain things.
No.
And I've thought about it myself, and that's life, isn't it? And
yeah, and it's their birth
hard.
story. That's one thing. I had some mums that they did all the things, and they prepared so beautifully. And still ended up transferring, ended up having a C-section, and I'm like, you can hold both, like, you can hold sadness and be happy that you've got your baby, and just, know that you did all the things, but also there's two people in this birth journey. There's you and your baby, and that's, we can't choose their path for them, right? So yeah, that's, I don't know.
What happened after the birth? So after she's been born, how long did you stay in hospital for? How long did you stay on the Gold Coast for? And how did you feel after having a vaginal birth, physically and emotionally?
Yeah. So she went to NICU for like 12 hours as well, because with the meconium, they wanted to run some, I don't know, they ran some tests just to, and monitor her breathing, make sure there was no, like, fluid on the lungs still and whatnot. But yeah, she came to me the next morning. And then, so we were in hospital one night. This is where it's like, we were going to go home that afternoon, and then the next day was Easter Sunday. And so everyone was trying to be discharged. And I now wish that I just walked out, but there's a little bit of, like, do the right thing, the good girl that's like, no. And so we didn't get discharged. So we stayed another night, which was pretty horrendous, to be honest. Just, bells and things like that. And Lola and I didn't really need anything. Like, we weren't buzzing for pain relief or whatnot. And so yeah, I got to sleep eventually after all, like, the adrenaline and whatnot. And the midwife that I had that came on at night, she came in and woke me up because she was like, "Oh, you haven't buzzed. Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't need you, and I'm trying to sleep." And then she was like, "Have you fed your baby?" And I'm like, yeah, it was like, ew, it was really weird. So anyway, that's just a whole different
Yeah,
thing. But
that's just I observed that some of them, they're just in their own lane, like not thinking about other people. Like, this
it's
person's
very,
exhausted and
yeah,
tired, and like maybe I
mm,
should creep in and see what's going on. They're like,
yeah,
hey, I'm here,
yeah,
I'm awake, everyone
yeah.
should be awake. And you're like, what is
Yes.
wrong with you?
Yes, it is very much a workplace. And that's
Yes.
one other thing that I notice between midwives, like even the most well meaning in the hospital, it's still like they fall into workplace gossip. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
I'd been in the maternity assessment place and it's like, oh, that's the woman that wants a vaginal birth after a classical. Like she needs counselling. And that woman over there, she's got a scratched vulva. Like, and they just talk so loud. You hear everyone's like what they're going through. Yeah, even like, so after having Lola, my room was right across from the nurses' station. I heard them like at handover, oh, this woman had a VBAC, and yeah, after a classical, and like some of them were like, oh my gosh, really? Wow. And I was like, oh, they're like, you know, not always is it good stuff that they're saying, but yeah. Um,
Yeah, and
so
I just wanted to say as well about the baby in special care, they do transfer babies to special care a lot more when they're home birth babies,
oh yeah.
because they do freak out about, oh, we don't have your blood and we don't have this and we don't know what
Yeah.
care you've got, even
Yeah.
though you've had all the scans or whatever.
Yeah.
Just for anyone listening, it's a lot higher for somebody transferring from a home birth, and especially a free birth, but they really do worry, like, is that baby healthy? We haven't seen
Yeah.
that baby or mother. And
Yeah.
so a lot of the time is just, we're going to do this just to make sure everything's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And
I
I experienced those bloody Chinese whispers myself, where everyone's talking
yeah.
about you and
Yeah.
they come in and you're like some
I just
weirdo that's had this vaginal birth,
yeah,
and it's crazy, isn't it?
I
How
know.
the galls of them to,
And you just like I can yeah, you can hear everything that they're saying and that's yeah, like workplace sort of culture. Even when I was going in as a doula, you know, I'd have like I'd be in a room with a woman and her husband, and it was all like dull lights, and we had beautiful music playing, and this really beautiful birth space. A midwife would walk in. Oh, is this one of those quiet births? Is this one of those like hypnobirthing? And I'm like, is this woman for real? And then
wrong.
I'd
It's so
then
wrong.
she'd leave the room and like later I'd go out and go to the toilet and they'd be like, oh, Mel, like, oh, it's so nice you're supporting in there. Like, and then they'd be talking about my like the client and I'm, you know, oh, you know, do you think she's doing that well? Like, do you even think she's that far along? And I'm like,
Oh god.
I am not engaging with
They're out of
this.
control, some of them,
Yeah.
aren't they? It
Yeah.
really, you can't even like, it's crazy. Like some of the stuff, you just think, are you okay? Are you okay?
Like, this might just be another day for you, but this
Yeah.
is like the biggest day of their lives.
Yes. Yeah. I wish if they came into that with compassion and understanding. Some of them are really great, but
Yeah.
some of them
Yeah.
are out of control and it's just
Yeah.
wild. And
Yeah.
that's one thing I do respect about majority of the home birth midwives,
Yeah.
that they do come in with that understanding
Yeah.
of protecting that space and just
Definitely.
respecting the
Yeah.
process. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You definitely can tell the difference.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
how was your did you have any tearing or anything like that?
I did. I did have like a second degree tear.
Yeah.
And so I did have some stitches for that. And yeah, I'm like, well, you know what? Neither are a walk in the park. Like the
Yeah.
C-section or having a tear, you know, it's both. I don't know. I think I, the women that I supported, they just, I guess I was maybe comparing myself because I was like, I don't really remember any of my clients being like, oh, this is ouchy. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's either well, I say maybe my pain threshold's not that high, but then I had a vaginal birth with no meds, no pain relief. So I don't know, but the after was, yeah, it was ouchy. Yeah, and
I
I don't know.
understand it would be ouchy. You know, you've got a cut, a tear,
Yeah.
and then you have to wee from there, which has got
Yes.
like salts and things, and
Yeah.
it is a very sensitive area to,
Yeah.
you know, my clients who have had tears, you know, some of them have had really bad tears like years ago, and, you know, it was a very long process of healing.
Yeah.
And majority of them haven't really had anything, but, you know, every now and then there's someone who does have a big tear, and it's important to share that this
Yeah.
is painful and
Yeah.
it can be a healing process. And
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I think my biggest fault was definitely just comparing myself to others. Because I was like, oh, I don't know if I should be complaining this much, or, you know, but it is what it is. I do say, like, there was no like walk in the park for me. Like,
yeah,
the recovery of a C-section, I will say no. Getting up straight after I'd had my baby, being able to have a shower, not being like off my face on pain relief, like strong pain relief. Like, there was so many, for me, more positives with a vaginal birth and having, just no medication, because I just don't like the feeling. Personally, I don't know, I just don't like it. So the recovery was better, like far better, physically, mentally, emotionally. However, I don't know, in my head, I just did think that there would be no pain after. And that was not the case. And the third time after birth pains were
yeah.
intense.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
really intense.
yes.
So
Something to
it
look
was,
forward to if you're having a third.
or fourth or
Yeah,
fifth or sixth.
yeah. I think by the time you've had your third, I think you know what you're in for with your
No,
fourth and
I
fifth.
know. That's it. That's
Oh,
it.
oh, well, thank you so much for sharing your stories with
Yeah,
us. There
thanks,
was so
Ash.
much wisdom and knowledge in there. For anyone listening who, you know, you would like to, what message would you like to share with anyone listening?
Oh, I don't know, just really being like prepared. Like, okay, I do believe that women can birth babies. Like, we can go out into a field, we can have a baby with no interruptions and no interventions. But we have modern society, we've all gotten into our heads. Our head can be one of the biggest things that can sabotage our birth, right? And so prepping yourself with information can help to quieten that head noise, I think, and be more confident in our bodies and in our ability to just birth babies. But also just trusting that inner knowing, trusting that, just like digesting food, our body will birth babies. And if something's up, just like when you eat something, if something's up, you will know, and then you can seek help if you need it. Like, that's really how all birth should unfold.
I
And
love that.
preparing for that. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing, and
Oh, thank
congratulations
you.
again.
Thanks, Ash.
If you're listening to these episodes because you're planning your own VBAC, I want you to know that support really matters. Having a place where you can ask questions, share experiences, and connect with women who understand your journey can make all of the difference. That's exactly why I created the VBAC Village, a supportive community for women preparing for birth after Caesarean. You can learn more at ashleywinning.com/VBAC Village. Thanks so much for spending this time with us today, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning in to the VBAC Homebirth Stories podcast. I hope today's story inspired you to trust your body, own your choices, and embrace the power of birth. If you love this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with another mama who needs to hear this. Do you have a VBAC homebirth story to share? I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on ashleywinning.com or on Insta at AshleyLWinning. Until next time, take care and trust your body.